Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Secondary Heroes podcast. It's time for episode 102. We're talking the Friends reunion special on HBO Max. This is your host, Trevor, and joining me as usual is...
Hey, guys, this is Prague.
Thank you for being a friend. This is DeLorean Wolfgang.
This is ScubaSteve.
Oh, wow. Hold on. That was an extra voice. Who was that again?
You may remember me from such podcasts as The Nerd Foo and The Nerd Foo.
Nice. Welcome aboard, man. Yeah,
Thanks, fellas.
Through listening to the Nerd Foo and just following you on Twitter and everything like that, I know that you're a huge Friends fan. So bringing you on was kind of a must at this point.
I appreciate the invite for sure. And yes, I am a Friends diehard fan. I've been watching it for a long time, and I admit I wasn't there at the pilot, but ever since, I caught the Friends bug a long time ago, and I've probably gone through that series so many times. It's up there with shows like Lost and Sons of Anarchy and, stuff like that, where you can just watch the seasons over and over and over. And that's me.
I like it.
So I would never compare Lost and Sons of Anarchy to Friends.
I think that there is, first of all, I think if you're maybe of a certain age, maybe I think that might, yeah, maybe with some of that little not so dark hair color anymore. But I think that it may resonate a little bit more, just kind of in my opinion, because yes, the ensemble kind of show that it is, that kind of comedy, you don't see that same kind of comedy in sitcoms now.
Sure. Well, you can't get away with some of the things that they got away with.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think is in terms of kind of what the show means to me, at least personally. And, when I sit back and look at like the writing and the storytelling and stuff like that, I think that's why I can compare it for me to shows like that I really, really love, like Sons of Anarchy, Lost, Supernatural. They're all different shows in their own right. But I think that, maybe in a deeper level, like everybody has that handful of, shows that they really hold near and dear. And for me, Friends is pretty much at the top of the list.
That's awesome.
That makes sense. You're talking about the rewatchability of a show. And that's
absolutely,
it makes sense. Those shows are definitely rewatchable, in my opinion. I've watched Lost quite a few too many times.
It's a great show. I could do that show too.
The cool thing about Friends is it is one of those shows that you don't need to really follow the story too much. Like you could literally just turn on episode 4 from season 8 and enjoy it.
Sure.
Oh, that's the one. No.
It's like, I know exactly which one that is.
Do you want me to tell you what it is? Because I got the whole lineup here.
You got the whole lineup. Yeah, I agree, though. You can just pop on. I mean, after it went to TBS for a while, and I don't even know if it's still on TBS, but yeah, you could literally just turn to it, and any episode that's on, you could have it playing in the background. It's kind of like The Office. Like we've seen The Office so many times over and over again. Like as soon as we're done, we start it over and we have it playing in the background when we're getting ready for work or when we're trying to go to sleep or when we're cooking. The same thing with Friends. You pop on an episode, you could sit, you could listen to it, you could keep doing other things because in your mind, you pretty much know what the next line is going to be or what the next punchline is going to be or what's going to happen next.
For sure. It turns into background noise.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about
the background noise you care about.
Like you said earlier, like they don't make sitcoms or really shows like this anymore because it was true situational comedies where the writers would create a situation. And yeah, there's some ongoing narratives that happen, right, with the romances between different characters and events that happen. But for every episode, it's usually based on a situation that's funny. And that's why it's easy to kind of tune into any episode at any point in time. Because it's all based on just that situation. You don't have to necessarily know every single detail of every character all the time. As long as you kind of know the archetypes of the characters, you can get through the situation and enjoy the episode.
Yeah. Well, and some of the shows that I can think of off the top of my head that try to either emulate or, really kind of piggybacked off of Friends would be like a How I Met Your Mother, even like a Big Bang Theory. I mean, without Friends, you really don't have shows like, I mean, definitely not How I Met Your Mother. Like, you needed Friends to have How I Met Your Mother, and I guess in the same sense, Big Bang Theory too. And I feel like those were kind of the last of the like Friends type of sitcoms. I don't know.
I never thought about that. That's a good point. I also think that if you're a kind of that time, that time when the shows came out that were super popular, for some reason, at least to me, I always think that there's either you've got the Friends fan or you've got the Seinfeld fans.
Oh,
and for some reason that to me, that's like, it's it's not as epic as the Star Trek versus Star Wars. I know that, but I think there's always like a battle between Seinfeld versus Friends. And I think Friends, because I have friends like that I get into these conversations with, I was not a Seinfeld fan, and nothing against the show. I watched some of it and it just didn't appeal to me. There was nothing there pulling me back. Friends was the complete opposite. Kept pulling me back, kept making me rewatch it, and it was great. But I also think that the comedy, like you were saying, the situational comedy with the cast members, like, you could either turn it on real quick and watch it, background noise, or you could actually be invested with it and, in it, and it'll stick with you. But I think that there's a warming tone of, you actually know people in the sense that remind you of these characters in life for the most part. Like, I know people that are like these personalities, not everybody, but I think it's more easily being able to put yourself into those situations, into those characters' shoes, than maybe on the Seinfeld side, because it was a little bit more, a little bit more sarcastic, a little bit more biting, not necessarily mean, but the comedy was very different, I think.
So yeah, it's two different styles.
Right, for sure. And the way that I always looked at it, and actually I mentioned this to my wife whenever we were watching the reunion together, is Seinfeld was kind of our, I want to say, parents' version of Friends. So, like, our parents had Seinfeld, we had Friends, and, I mean, down the line, How I Met Your Mother, whatever, on and on and on. I felt like the humor for Seinfeld was a little bit more adult for someone at my age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't, Trevor, I don't know if you've really seen too much Friends, but I feel like we're the only, I guess, young ones in the crowd here.
What I wanted to bring up earlier was kind of see what everyone's origin story was with the show.
Let's do that.
I think it'd be kind of fun. So we know Trevor. Trevor, have you ever watched a single episode at all, or do you know like kind of bits and pieces of it?
To who Steve is for a Friends fan, I would be on the other end of the spectrum.
Gotcha.
All right.
I don't dislike Friends. Just it wasn't like when it was mainly airing, I was like 6 to 12, so it's not my like hot thing of Friends, and so I never went back and really got into it or watched it. Right. But I've seen clips here and there, and it's not my type of comedy. It's a little too goofy. It's a little too kind of over the top and friendly, and like it's trying to be funny where I don't need that. And like, if anybody's ever listened to the show, I like shows that are very underhanded with their comedy. So
understated, that makes sense. Yeah,
well,
I can be too, for sure.
So with that, Trevor, we posted on Twitter and on Facebook, and we had some people comment. And one of the hot takes that we got was from a Samir, and he's from the Loose Cannons podcast. He's a good buddy, but his hot take kind of mimics yours, your take on it. His hot take is the most overrated sitcom in history of TV. Corny humor, if you can even call it humor. Terrible TV. So
it hurts.
I wouldn't say that you were that heavy-handed with your comment, Trevor, but I did see the parallels.
I don't watch it enough to care or be that strongly opinionated. Like, I watched part of the reunion special, and there's the sequence where Joey's sitting in Chandler's seat, and he's like, "Well, I'm gonna take the cushions. I'm gonna wear all your clothes." And I was like, "This is not for me."
Like, nope, nope. Now, so to that point, I remember when that episode aired, because that episode was so extremely specific to me and my friends that I loved it. It was like the funniest thing ever. I'm like, that is us. Like, we have literally fought over the chairs in our friends' places. It's like, what do you mean that's your chair? Like, well, I always sit there.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking? Like, no, it's always my seat. Like, you didn't call it. Like, I think that's why Friends works for a certain demographic, because I happen to been, I think, at the right age. I was in college when the show really hit its stride. So like my friends were all like that. I'm like, wow, I really saw my friends in this show. I don't necessarily think it's the greatest comedy of all time, but for the right time in my life, it worked then. Like, I don't necessarily go back and rewatch the shows. But watching this documentary show reunion was kind of interesting, because I forgot how much I actually did enjoy it back then. Like, it was more of a nostalgic, like, oh, that was kind of fun. Like, I don't know if I would have liked a show today that had that same style of humor. Like, to your point, Trevor, like, that's not who I am today. Like, I just probably wouldn't watch a show like that. I'm more of a Arrested Development type style of humor, that's really kind of deep, and you kind of have to think about it a little more. Whereas I feel like Friends was, right there. You knew what you were getting,
Well, and that's the interesting thing when you say that is, even in the show, I believe they actually bring it up in the reunion episode where they say they kind of hit a point where your friends are your family until you have a family type of thing. Yep. Like eventually your friends kind of all go on their own ways. Like
they grow up.
Exactly. They grow up. Yeah. So it totally makes sense. The show had to end, and like that, it ended on a perfect point where, yes, now they're all starting their own families.
And that's a good point right there. There are not a lot of shows that have an ending like the way that show ended. Nobody had to die. Nobody had super horrible problems. Yeah, there was no red wedding.
Right?
Nobody had to die. There was no horrific accident. There was nothing where, I mean, we got close to, a couple of people maybe going overseas, but that show, they were comfortable enough, just like they kind of led to in the reunion. They were comfortable enough with the show to make it where, like, no, these people, these fans are invested in these characters for 10 years. We don't need to do anything super extreme. Let's wrap it all up and let's go out in a very nice, almost peaceful way.
And everybody
it was good.
Loved it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was great. I didn't need any extra drama. There was nothing, it's just, I don't know. So going back to like Sons of Anarchy, like, I won't say anything in case anybody hasn't seen the very end, but like that was a great show. Like, and I loved every episode all the way and, up until the ending, and I loved it. But also I was thinking, that could have gone a different way. And I think we all maybe have shows that we are happy with the way it ended, but there is a part of us that are like, man, that could have gone a different way, good or bad, whatever. But I think like for Friends, they were comfortable enough. They knew the audience well enough. And it was like, let's go out in a really good, positive way. And there is not a whole lot of that to me nowadays.
I fully agree with that. Yeah, I'm right on board. I'll do my quick little Friends where it started for me. I actually watched bits and pieces when I was a kid, when it was airing and stuff like that. It didn't actually become a thing for me where I watched every episode until I was on cruise ships. And one of my closest friends, Greg, he was actually one of my groomsmen at my wedding. Greg was, I wouldn't say obsession level, but he watched it a lot. And he used to tell me, he used to talk about it a bunch, and okay, I can't tell certain stories, I guess. Sorry, there's certain stories about this that I can't tell. Okay. So
what happened on that cruise
ship? Maybe off the recording, I'll tell you guys. Anyways, so Friends, I actually but I got into Friends through my friend Greg. And after I got off the cruise ships, having Netflix put Friends on there and being able to watch every episode back to back to back to back to back.
Oh, so you really did come late to the game.
I did come late to the game. And here's the thing is, like, I saw what people saw when it originally aired. I saw the Friends dynamic. I saw what I always wanted was having that group of friends. I mean, which I had like on the cruise ships, which I had in high school and before. You know, it's one of those things that it's a nostalgic thing where you miss your friends. Mm-hmm. You miss these people who, you know, were always around and you always had a spot to go to. You know, that was a cool thing that really drew me towards the Friends.
All right. Well said. No, I do know that when it first came out, though, I was young enough to where my parents didn't like me watching it because it was a little bit more adult and risque. Like some of the humor was definitely more sexualized, and they didn't like that. So I don't think I started watching it until probably the second season, I believe. I think that's when. Is that when he was going to get married in that second season?
It's probably when the dog starts barking.
That too. Sorry, dogs do bark.
The second season, I think, one of the big reveals in the second season is
spoiler
when Rachel finds out how Ross felt.
Yeah. Okay, so that's when I started watching was that. 'Cause I think the first season they were like, no, and like they finally gave in because it became like way too popular. Like everyone was watching it and like, all right, fine, go ahead. So that's when I started watching it, and I missed a lot of like the Marcel stuff. So I had to go back later and watch the monkey business.
The monkey.
Which they bring
up. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Yeah. But yeah.
For me,
not care about any of the monkey stuff.
No.
Cut the monkey stuff out.
I agree. It wasn't the greatest. Yeah, I agree.
Anyways,
I was gonna say for me, my Friends origin was I knew the show and had seen some of it and really liked it. At that time I wasn't like crazy about it until I found out that one of my cousins that I'm closest to, she was a huge fan. And I don't know, like we talked a lot and we lived like in, the same town, minutes apart, but I don't know in all of our conversations how that didn't come up, but finally it just popped up in conversation. She was like, I love it. I was like, yeah, I really like it. And she was like, well, come over and watch. At the time, there wasn't really anything going on. We weren't fully adults yet. And, so we had those times during the day where you could not do anything but just watch TV all day. Oh. So I would I know. Remember those days?
Sounds amazing.
So I would literally almost every day. I didn't have anything else to do really. I would literally go over to my aunt's house and it would just be me and her, and we hang out in my aunt's living room. We sit on the couch and make a sandwich or something or whatever and just watch Friends, like just over and over and over and just watch it. And that really built up to it. And then flash forward years later, the opportunity came for me to go to work in Iraq. So I went and, I was in Baghdad for a time. And when I got there, it was my first time ever going anywhere overseas. It was my first trip by myself. I was working retail, 21, not really knowing anything really. And just, got this opportunity. So I went and I took it. And yeah, I got homesick for, it was a little depressing. Just doing everything I could to keep busy while I was over there. And within the first couple of weeks, went to one of the PX on base, little store, and they had the entire collection up until whatever season, up until whatever season had stopped. So I bought them all, and I kept buying them as they came out. And so that actually, the show helped me being in Baghdad. Might sound corny, but it actually helped because it reminded me of home. And like you were saying, misses your friends. So that is the biggest impact that it had, is just, it really got me through that first like good 6 months of, because it's not like I was in Florida or something like that, and it was nice and quiet and just a little bit hot. No, there was stuff going on that was right outside my window, and it really did help. So that's where, that's kind of, it's got a tie-in for me right there.
So you brought your friends with you overseas. I like it.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, and to kind of piggyback off of that, my buddy Greg, I want to almost say that was kind of his thing with friends too. When you live on cruise ships, you're away from your family, you're away from your friends, and having that show, you still have that connection to your home somehow. I think he kind of shared that same. I mean, Baghdad and Hawaii are a little different, but
a little bit.
How so? Oh, the food. That's right.
They're both tropical, right? So yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, man, that's a wild story though. That's very cool that you found this like common ground in a way.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I love the show. It was just that it was like a little piece of home that I could just pop into the sand-covered DVD player that was in our little trailer and like watch this show. That it's like, oh yeah.
So,
it's pretty cool.
Being from Texas, watching a show that's based in New York that was shot in California.
Watching it in Baghdad.
Nothing like home.
Nothing like home.
That's awesome. This is NBC. Nothing like home.
That's great.
Well, the cool thing about it too, Friends had such a major impact and a major, pop culture wise, major impact to where they actually kept the entire sets. And I don't know if anybody really knows this too much. Who knows? But in LA, if you go to the Warner Brothers studios, you can actually still go onto the set of Central Perk and the Friends set. And you can sit on the couch. So my buddy Greg, that I was talking about earlier, he lived in San Diego with me for a while. And when he moved away, the one thing he wanted to do was he wanted to see the Friends set. So we took a day where we all went up to LA, checked out the Warner Brothers studio, did the full tour, which, by the way, because of that tour, me and my wife got really into Gilmore Girls. Because it was all shot on that backlot, and everything that they talked about was like, oh yeah, this here is from Gilmore Girls. This is from Gilmore Girls. And we're like, well, I guess we got to watch Gilmore Girls. Which, by the way, Gilmore Girls is great. I actually really do love the show. And it's just fun when you do go on this tour and they tell you about all this stuff. You look around, and then whenever you watch the show, you're like, oh my God, I was standing right there. I was right there. Oh, look at that. It's pretty wild. Anyways, so there did come a point in the tour where they were like, okay, this is where they shot Friends. This is the studio. This is XYZ. And then we walked onto the Big Bang Theory, which was pretty cool. But then they took us to like a back lot area where they actually house everything from the show, where you can get your picture on the couch that they all sat on at Central Perk. And it was very cool, man. So I got my picture at Central Perk. You got to walk around and look at some of the stuff. I mean, it's a smaller version because Central Perk was fairly big. They definitely condensed everything so they could fit more stuff in there. But it was pretty interesting, man. And I think that even sparked a little bit more of the Friends buzz for me and my wife to turn it on and watch every episode front to back.
I read an article. I don't know how true it is or not. I think it was in Entertainment Weekly, but the set of Friends that they have, I haven't been there, but that is definitely on my list now. They said that it's like, of course, all that stuff is under lock and key, but they were like super adamant about when the show ended, not to let anything kind of walk off, quote unquote, off the set. And I'm sure people still took stuff, but for some reason they made it a point to kind of call out like that show, that set, those items. They wanted to make sure like none of it left as much as possible. And again, I don't know how true that is. It was, Entertainment Weekly, but I don't know. I always thought though, if it was true, that's pretty cool. That just makes it even more special. Like they wanted to keep the integrity intact.
Well, And that's where the reunion comes in play, because they actually talk about a lot of that stuff, like things walking off set from actors and actresses, which is great. And I actually love that type of stuff. That was so funny to hear about who's got what from the set and whatnot. Maybe we should get into the reunion. You guys think we should do that?
Yeah.
How about, now that we're 25 minutes into this episode, let's get into our social medias. You can check us out over at crossthestreamsmedia.com for links to all of our social medias, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, etc. You can also listen to every one of our episodes on the site, as well as leave us a review on that website. Even more exciting is our new voicemail feature, which you can leave questions, feedback, suggestions, hot takes, what we can I'm trying to read all this really quickly, and it's not working out. I shouldn't read. I should just do it. And while you're there, check out some of our other sister shows on the network as well, like Movie Gap, 3 Beers and a Mic, Dan Aykroyd podcast, 4 Dorksmen, and the Burt Reynolds and Charles Bronson podcast. And there's a lot more. Actually, they're adding daily. And this is all, again, at crossthestreamsmedia.com. We do have a couple voicemails. Maybe we'll throw them in at this point, Trevor. Wink. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and bell button, because this is all free for you and it's priceless to us. Let's get to that reunion, now that I realize that I am illiterate and cannot read.
And also, it's at Secondary Heroes. Always important to include from all that stuff you can do.
That's true. Yes.
Yes, we are available at Secondary Heroes on all platforms, anywhere you can find us. So I just wanted to ask real quick before we did dive into it. So for you, Steve, specifically, since you are a super fan of the show, it was the reunion special what you were expecting and hoping for a reunion episode?
I was very happy with it.
Okay.
I was. Yep.
All right. Nice.
I
didn't know what to expect going into it. I was like, I don't know if it was going to be them doing skits the whole time, or if it was going to be an actual scripted thing. Like, I had no idea. So I went in kind of pleasantly surprised.
I love the way they shot it, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But I love the way they shot it. It was really cool.
Nice.
I'll totally agree with that. But I actually thought that it was going to be a reunion episode where they actually shot an episode.
Right. That's what I thought too.
That was my first thought whenever they announced, "Hey, Friends are going to do this."
And I'm kind of glad it wasn't.
Yeah. I'm totally glad it wasn't. And throughout the episode, they kind of like touched on points why they wouldn't do that, which
was beautifully said.
Yes, absolutely. They did a great job. And I mean, we talked about it already, is that the show wrapped up perfectly. There was no reason to continue their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Yeah, that wouldn't happen nowadays. Nowadays, like, it's successful. Let's do a sequel right now.
Let's reboot it. It's
right. Oh my God.
It's okay. Yeah, you really don't have to.
No. Create new stuff, please. Thanks.
I've got 10 box sets in the garage, like, of DVDs. Right? We don't need to reboot it. I got it on digital. We're good. We're good.
Yeah. So the fun thing about this was that they had every cast member come in one by one to the set, right? And you kind of have to wonder, like, how long has it really been since these people have been on this set? Like, I wonder if maybe none of them have. Yeah, but I guess no one ever visited the WB lot to see the stage. I don't know.
I was going back and forth with that. I was like, how believable is that? Not to be negative, but then at the same time, I'm like, you can kind of tell who's had, I guess there's no other way around saying it, but not everybody was as super successful and took off as others were.
Right.
So if they if they really haven't been back to set, I could believe it.
Makes sense.
I could believe it. Yeah.
Well,
and
it's funny. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to wonder, like, how often do you think they see each other in person too? Because it seems like it was kind of cagey. Like, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know how.
Seeing each other, I wouldn't venture to say that it's often. Now, I will say my gut tells me that there are phone calls that happen, but I think that's probably more frequent, quote unquote, than the in person.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And they mentioned that when they see someone from the show at like a party or something like that, nothing else matters, and they sit down with that other person pretty much the rest of the night, which is cool. That's great, but I mean, why not just say, "Oh, hey, man, I'm actually going to be at this party. I heard you might be at this party too," or this is a mutual friend. Do you want to go together? Do you want to hang out? Like, what? Why is it a surprise when you go to a place and you see that person? You know, these are people that were together, and they constantly call each other family throughout the whole thing. We're always a family. We're always going to be a family type of thing. Yet we rarely talk to each other.
It was more than what Toretto says. Like, it was way more family talk than Toretto, which made me happy.
Nice reference, especially with the new movie coming out. Anyways, so I don't know. It was interesting to me the way, and I think we were going to talk about this anyways, but like the way everyone aged differently.
Okay,
that shows the success of each person's career after Friends. Unfortunately,
I literally
sad. It was kind of sad in my opinion.
When I saw Joey, the first thing that I thought was, this is a dude who is living off of royalty checks. This guy doesn't need to do anything else with the rest of his life. He's getting a fat royalty check every month. Dude can be fat and happy all he wants.
But he seems to be the happiest.
He seems like it, right? He's like, still cracking jokes. Like he's still fresh, man. It's great.
Hey, it's my favorite. Fried stuff with cheese.
Exactly.
It was awesome. I don't know.
I do love the idea that somebody pitched him, or I think he might have said it himself. He likes to think of Joey as, you know, being on the beach, owning a sandwich shop. I love that. Yeah. And I was like, dude, LeBlanc, do it. Go get it done. Like, call it Joey's.
Fun.
Isn't that what? That's what he did. He did the show Joey, where he moved to LA.
Yeah.
And it was a horrible disaster.
Oh God, I forgot about that.
That was Did you stay with it as long as you could?
No.
Did not.
I don't think I watched one episode.
Nope.
All I knew was Joey goes to LA to become an actor, and that's all I knew. Like the posters for it was Joey in a convertible with the beach behind him, and he's sitting there smiling. That's all I know from that show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't need to be a show. No.
They all kind of ran through their own shows for a while, with the exception of Aniston, I think.
Yeah, I think they all tried. Yeah. They all tried to like do their standalone kind of show, and it's like, no, just do other stuff. Yeah. It's always tough whenever a show is that popular. A lot of actors seem to have that happen to them, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right, where you just can't find the same success. I mean, even like Kramer from Seinfeld tried to go off on his own. I mean, granted, he did something absolutely terrible, which totally ruined his career. But before that, he was trying to do shows getting off the ground. And that time, I can't imagine the amount of struggle that would be coming off of a 10-year show with as high as ratings as it was. I can't think of another that actually worked.
Well, they're all typecast at that point. So like everyone's like, oh, I don't want you to be this person. I want you to be Joey. Like, oh, what if I want to try to be somebody else, you know?
They also hit the wrong time because Friends ended in 2004. If they would have had Friends in 2010, a lot of the shows they tried to do were on network TV. Now it would have gone straight to Netflix and it would have got a bunch of seasons because Netflix doesn't have the same standards. We don't need 10 million people to watch it live.
Exactly.
They hit at the wrong time of when the show ended.
They kind of did. Yeah. They should have just kept it going. Oh, well.
Sorry. I do, other than their appearance, I really like the way that they introduced them one at a time, that you got to see them walk onto the set. You got several good minutes it was more intimate. It was a very intimate opening. And I'm not going to lie. There was stuff in my eye that caused wetness, and
Was it the humidity?
Immediately, it was probably the humidity. Like it was add powder everywhere.
Those moist eyeballs.
It was just seeing them one at a time, their reaction, and it's just genuine to me. It was 100% genuine. Their facial expressions, and if you take it with a grain of salt, like, yeah, they haven't been back, and you allow yourself to kind of just get those feelings back. I mean, it got me, like, in the very beginning when they all, one at a time. It was great. I love the way they did that.
I fully agree. I fully agree with that, because you're absolutely right. It definitely had just a really cool moment of just watching them. You can almost see it in their face, them reliving certain things in their head as they're just looking at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just really
that happened, right? Like, that's where Monica had her notes on the table, like that.
Oh God, that whole thing was great. That was so funny. I love listening to the behind the scenes type of stuff like that.
Yep. And they had they said she kept her script in the sink.
The script in the sink. Yep. And she used to write certain things on the bottom of the apples.
Yep. On the fruit.
God, that's something I would have done in college for tests. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just gotta write it on the inside of your sunglasses.
Yes.
That one little piece of paper that was folded up like that small.
But yeah, that was a very cool moment. Yeah. See, and that was straight off the top, right at the beginning, which really threw you straight into the emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, all the feels came back for sure. And once they all like kind of got on there, it, even though we're watching this reunion special and it was, filmed, the moment that they all got together after the one at a time and they got together, it didn't seem like it took long at all. It seemed like maybe seconds, and you were with them back into that kind of family, for lack of a better word. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
Yeah, especially watching the guys in the chairs and everything and reenacting that whole scene. Not really meaning to. They just kind of sat in the chairs together. It was kind of fun.
Well, and it was interesting that they actually split off and sat in the chairs while everybody else was in the other room. It was like, well, this is kind of neat, because that's what they were doing when they actually were shooting.
Yeah, when they sat down in the recliners, I think it happened real fast, but I think Matthew Perry, like, when they leaned back and they were like, oh, like that, I think Matthew Perry real quick, he looked at Matt LeBlanc and was like, oh, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah.
It was good to see you, Maddie. Yeah, I think he said that. It was real fast. It was real fast, but neat. That was cool.
Well, because they were having themselves a little moment, and it was kind of, it was very cool we got to kind of spy in on that very special moment between the two of them.
Little fly on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice little, I don't know whose idea it was, the director, I guess, of the documentary series, to have the camera person kind of not be right in their face all the time, but like zoomed in from far away, so you capture those like kind of intimate moments, that they probably don't realize they're even on camera for. But...
Heck yeah. That was
they
great.
were all mic'd up too, so they had to have known a little bit.
But... Right, but you feel, I don't know, less vulnerable probably, since you don't have like a whole audience there with you and camera people and an interviewer talking to you.
It's like like you said, right there.
Yeah, that's all it was. Yeah. So
well, and I'm sure these people, they can't go anywhere without just crowds and masses following them around, taking pictures of them, and for them to actually have these type of moments when they're not in their own home or anything like that, where they can be with other people and actually feel like, hey, I can be a real person with you, type of thing. I don't have to be this character out and about. I can be cool with you. I don't know. It's kind of neat to see them kind of bring down their shield a little bit with all of this.
Get more personable.
Yeah.
I was thinking about how, like I mentioned, how they shot the actual reunion itself like an episode. I thought that was so neat, the way that was such a good idea to shoot it. It's not an actual episode.
Right.
It's a special, but they shot it like an episode with the many kind of cutaways and the fades and the music, fade in, fade out. It was just like watching an episode.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we kind of got an episode, but not the real episode. Like I think that, like you said, probably a lot of people wanted it. But again, this was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. Trevor, I know that you mentioned that you had questions.
So my questions are more kind of analyzing the reunion special itself. So
let's do it.
Like when they went two different pathways. Like they had the before or behind the scenes footage. Those are really cool. Would you guys want to see more of that? Because they also went with having like celebrities. What did you guys think of Friends? Like they had David Beckham and Kit Harington and BTS.
Oh, yeah.
Would you want one style more than the other? Do you think it was balanced well?
I personally would have liked a lot more of the behind the scenes. I'm
a behind the scenes person, so I would have liked more of that too. I didn't hate the other stuff, like hearing the famous people talk about it, but I don't know if we needed as much. I think there was a decent balance there, but yeah, probably more of the behind the scenes stuff would have been fun.
I agree. I think that the balance was okay, but I too would have liked more behind the scenes. Although, it's interesting. I think it was Martha Kaufman that said how quick they kind of fell into the zeitgeist of everything being so popular. And it was really cool to hear all the celebrities. They grew up watching it too. A lot of the celebrities that they showed were young, are young. And, they can remember seeing shows and they were like, yeah, it meant X to me. And I always associated with this character. That part was cool. I appreciate that. But yeah, I would have been okay with more behind the scenes.
I think it was kind of fascinating that just about every celebrity that they were talking to all had the same thing in common where they were like, oh, I'm a Monica. Like everybody felt that they were a Monica.
They did say that. Yeah.
And I was like, really? Like nobody saw themselves in anybody else but Monica. I don't know. I found that to be kind of fascinating that maybe that's a thing for actors to just
be that type of personality.
Be that type of personality. Yeah. I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah.
I did like the kind of contrast to hearing what the celebrities thought and get, their feelings. I liked that they picked just, random people like the everyday fan from all different countries. That was really, really cool. I thought that was awesome. I really love that they did that.
The scope of the show.
The scope of the show, like the reach.
Phenomenon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really was must-see TV.
Cool. What else you got for us, bud?
Would you have liked, building off that, would you have liked more time though with people who were actually on the show? Like, because they had characters who weren't the main six. Would you like more time with them rather than people who weren't on the show?
Yes. That's me personally, yes.
So I actually like what they did though. They brought certain characters in for a beat. It was almost like a beat. I think the only celebrity that really hung out the longest was
Janice.
Janice, that's the name. I almost said Fran Drescher, but
similar. Yeah.
Very similar.
Same ballpark, yeah.
But Janice, she probably had the most screen time outside of everybody who came in, which I mean she's just great.
Yeah. She's great. I would have really loved to have seen. I had made like a little quick list of my favorite guest stars throughout the show, but I really would have loved to have seen either Paul Rudd or Bruce Willis.
I totally thought that they were going to bring in Paul Rudd.
Yeah. He was probably the biggest, other than Janice. I mean, he was probably the longest running guest star, because of his role. But Bruce Willis was only in a couple of episodes. But it was great seeing Bruce Willis because it was like, oh man, this is the comedic timing that we fell in love with on Moonlighting and the corniness and awesomeness of Hudson Hawk, But yeah,
who would have thought that he would have worked perfect for the show?
I know, it's great.
Stuff. Yeah,
of course.
I'm sure they had the idea. Like, I'm sure they would have loved to have had Bruce Willis on. But
yeah. Aisha Tyler was great too. I loved her. It would have been cool to see her on there.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of people we could have seen. What about the fashion show, guys? What did you think of that?
I actually didn't like that at all.
I could have done without that.
Okay, good. I was like all right.
Yeah.
It was cool to see like the behind the scenes and like the goofy costumes on the episodes. I think just leave it at that. It's because that's funny as is. I don't need to see Justin Bieber walking around as a Sputnik potato.
Yeah, I think I could have done without it. I mean, again, I won't say that I hated any part of it, but I could have done without it. I think having those celebrities come out and do that, I think just kind of, I can see that they may be asked, or I don't know if they would have volunteered, but it just kind of takes away the focus of we're here for them, but you've got these huge celebrities coming out and doing this fashion show that we could do pretty much without, but whatever, it happened.
Yeah.
I just felt like it was such a lull in the episode where I think I might have even jumped on my phone right once Justin Bieber showed up. I was like, okay, I think I can jump on my phone, check some Twitter for a little bit.
It's almost like they didn't know how to fill that little time slot, and I'm like thinking, man, you could have done so many other things.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and I personally, I'm not a huge fan of who hosted.
That was one of my questions. What did you guys think of James Corden? Because, like, for me, some of the clips, I'm like, this looks like the Late Late Show, and he had the Friends cast on to talk about memories. Like, there's other parts, but that's like the main thing. And James Corden's not the best on late nights. I don't know. I feel like even if they would have picked Aisha Tyler, because she's, hosted stuff and she has a Friends connection.
That would have been nice.
I feel like that would have definitely been better. There's just something about him that just, I'm just not, I don't know. Steve, you're laughing. I'm going to let you take that one.
Man, people love this dude. And
I'm
not gonna, there's nothing mean. I'm like, I don't have any, I don't know this dude, but I don't personally, I don't see what the huge draw is about him. I mean, people say that about me, but no, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I was
see guessing this whole guest spot, but whatever.
I just don't see, he's a very nice guy. I personally have never read or heard anything negative about him, like as a person behind the scenes. I don't know if there's drama or whatever. I don't find him particularly that funny. The karaoke stuff that he does in the cars, okay, yeah, it's cool. It's it's good for a quick laugh, but his kind of just, I don't know, his bubble, I don't get it. It's just not for me. But yeah, Trevor, I think they could have gone a different way, and not his way. They could have gotten somebody else.
I have seen worse interviewers on like panels at different conventions and stuff. So there are worse you could get than him. But yeah, he would not be my first choice.
This isn't a convention panel though. This is HBO spent quite a bit of money marketing this.
Exactly.
And why? Do y'all know why him? Trevor, did you see anything like why him?
It turns out that his company, Fullwell 73, produced the special.
There you go.
So it has nothing about skill or liking him or anything at all.
Well, and that's
there you have it.
I don't want to misconstrue anything. Like I don't think he's a bad guy. You said all that, behind the scenes. I'm sure.
Though. There was whole reports last year that he kind of has the Ellen DeGeneres vibe. And they kind of slipped that under the rug pretty quick.
This guy, I don't like him at all.
Because he again, this company's big that he's part of.
Let me get my pitchfork. Where's my torch?
Nope. Can't do tiki torches anymore. That's.
I don't know what that guy's draw is, but okay. Well, let me ask you guys. Let me ask you guys this then. Is there somebody? Trevor's like, I don't really care. No, is there somebody that you guys would have liked? I know that's kind of on the spot, but maybe one or two people you're like, they could have probably done better. I would like to see what they look like as hosts.
And
while I give you a second, to think about that for a minute, Trevor. It's funny that you came back with that. What you found out, why him? Because in the back of my mind, I was like, who did he owe or who owed him? What back alley deal was made where he was just like, "No, I'm gonna do this bloody thing, and that's gonna be it," you know?
Who would be a good person?
Think of something quick, man.
The only person I can think of that actually does well with the big like multi-group type interviews is Colbert. Whether you agree with him on his policies and politics or not, like he actually does hold the conversation well with them. That's the only person I can think of that can do it. Yeah. Off the top of my head.
Okay. All right.
So funny thing, I was thinking that Paul Rudd would have been really cool.
That's what I was thinking.
Paul Rudd would have been great because
that would have been.
He did spend a lot of time, like we discussed. He spent a lot of time on the show, so he's got connections with these people. He knows some of the behind the scenes stuff too.
Yeah. So he could be like, "Remember that time we did this?" Oh.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I think that would have been really cool to have something like that.
Somebody that doesn't seem like they would have to try to form that connection, you know what I mean? Like, and I could see him, I don't know, with James, it looks forced sometimes with him. Maybe that's
right.
One of my things with him. It's like he's trying too hard to relate to whoever he's next to. I don't know, but yeah, Paul would have been cool. I would have liked that.
Paul, and then just for giggles, I think Cole Sprouse, he's on Riverdale. He is Ross's child from the first season, and who knows?
That's right. That's right. They was because they had them cool. after Big Daddy. Yeah,
that would have been neat.
Funny. That would have been kind of neat. Even if he made an appearance, that would have been just because.
Like,
I mean,
Dad.
Yeah, he was
right.
There.
He goes up to him, to David Schwimmer. Hold me,
hold me, hold me, Dad.
Oh man.
Yeah. But there was a lot of missed opportunities with stuff like that, but also you didn't really want it to pull away from the actual friends too much.
Yeah. Did you think that they talked enough, like amongst themselves on the couch?
I think I would have liked more of that. I think seeing the behind the scenes of them walking around the sets and kind of going over little stories of like for instance, where Courtney Cox goes, "Oh, Lisa Kudrow has the real one of this. She's got it in her house." You know, stuff like that was fun.
Yeah.
You know, seeing them as real people and not as these characters would have been awesome.
I love the table readings.
I was gonna say that. That was gonna be my next point. That was my favorite.
Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your point, D.
I like it.
The table readings. That's another thing. Like, take out that fashion show. Give us like one or two more table readings in that little amount of time that went by. Those are so much fun. You got the little Michael Bay 360-degree camera spinning around as they're reading. I loved it. I was like, give me more of that.
Yeah, like anytime there's a table read, it's great. Not just in this, but in anything. So that was fun to watch, for sure.
And the ones that they chose to read too, those were great.
So, and now I want to ask, do you guys have, and I would say this is probably more for Steve. Do you guys have a favorite scene from all of Friends, or like a favorite episode from all of Friends?
Oh, don't do that to me.
I mean, my favorite moment was probably the pivot, just because I remember that episode so clearly, and I say it every time I move a couch to this day.
Every
time.
Everybody
and
does.
It's always upsets me when someone doesn't know the reference. I'm like, oh, all right, well.
That's one of the only references I do know. I feel
like
Captain America. I know
that. I know. It's like that's kind of my favorite scene, but like I've always enjoyed the apartment one where they switch apartments and they do the challenge.
The one with the embryos
show, which is great. I mean, that was such a great episode. I watched that one probably the most out of all of them.
That's what I was gonna say. If I had to pick one, that was probably gonna be mine, because as much as I mean, it's hard to do the two-parters, Like those are hard. Those are hard to do. Like Ross's wedding, in London and stuff like that. But
where he says
the one with
Rachel's name.
yes,
Oh, it's awful.
take thee,
I mean,
Rachel.
Cringe.
Yeah, the trivia game was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably say, and I'm glad that they touched on it in the HBO series, but it was the leather pants episode.
Yeah,
dude, there's something about the leather pants episode that just gets me, man. It's so funny the way that the amount of physical acting that David Schwimmer had to do for that whole thing was fantastic.
I love it when he says the lotion has mixed with the powder and now it's made some kind of paste. And Joey's like, interesting, on the phone, not giving any kind of help at all.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, do you guys, when you watch the show, do you guys have like a favorite character?
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's always been Chandler.
Yeah, it's mine too.
That it's always been Chandler. And kind of going back real quick to what you were saying, like you were saying how all the celebrities said they were Monica. Well, for me, it's weird because my favorite character has always been Chandler, but deep down, I know, and I've been told before that I'm like 100% Ross.
Oh, really?
Right on.
But my favorite character is all Chandler.
I've never seen Friends, and I've had 5 different people tell me that I remind them of Chandler, and so it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, like
Nice.
okay.
It's
You're
your
like, "Bing."
sarcastic. It's very sarcastic. That's
it's very
his
sarcastic.
thing. Could you be any more sarcastic?
Oh my god.
No, when I was a kid, I would say Chandler by far was my favorite. But as I got older and I did that rewatch of From Front to Back, I remember before I started, I told my wife, God, I just can't stand Ross. He is the worst. He's so annoying. He's such a whiny little, And then I watched it and I was like, oh no, is Ross my favorite character?
Oops.
He is hysterical. He is, dude. He is so
comedic timing is
good.
pretty decent time, that's for sure.
I didn't realize how good he was.
He did it again during the table read when they were doing the thing where they didn't want to find out about Chandler and Monica being together. Like his comedic timing is still spot on with that scene. It's like, it's like energetic.
I like he just let himself go too.
Yeah, he just lets him go.
And the behind the scenes of the pivot when he's yelling it out and they just lose their mind. Matthew Perry cannot stop laughing.
Now watching the behind the scenes of that actually kind of it opened my eyes to how they actually shot the show. They actually shot it all on film. The fact that they were shooting on film and you could hear them say cut and they had to, I mean, that's what the clapboards are for, so they can match up the film with audio. Like I was like, it amazes me that a show like that ran for 10 years and on film, because it's very expensive. But I mean, after the first season, these guys made bundles, so I think that they were fine. Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. It's just so interesting when I hear about sitcoms running on film.
Yeah,
that I don't know anything about the cameras or anything, but there was that one part where he went out to be on the set and he looked at one of the camera. He was like, I remember there being teams of people maneuvering these cameras and positioning, and now like one guy can manage all 3 of these cameras, but they were back then they were teams of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Man.
Now you have a guy in a control room pushing buttons.
Yeah,
they move everything.
Yeah,
which they do.
Crazy.
Like when I worked at NBC News, there was nobody on the floor except for the floor producer who would do the countdowns and point to cameras. But all the cameras were all moved by somebody in a booth. It was unreal. Because that's not how I grew up watching behind the scenes stuff. I always had cameramen that were behind the cameras, like moving it around and rocking with it and stuff. And yeah, that's not how it is anymore.
Nope. It is full on robotics now. It's absolutely wild. And I don't know how, for instance, these news anchors can concentrate, because while they're talking about a story, they're setting up for another story over there. And all these robotic cameras are all up and down over here, moving all like, and they're fast too, because they got to get the shot now.
It's called cocaine.
Cocaine.
Saying.
It's funny you say that the news anchors, like, do you remember watching the news where they had like physical sheets of paper? Now they have, you see them, they have the phone, on the counter, or they'll have like iPads, and they're like, in another news, it's like, man, I could do this myself. I have an iPad too. Get out of here.
You don't use the news anymore. You don't need them. You have it.
You're over there reading Twitter. I'm following the same thread you are, buddy.
I used to have to sort scripts for 3 different people for like 3 hours in the morning because it was all printed out in stacks. Awful. I do not miss that.
Caveman.
That's how old
That's old ale. Indeed.
So to kind of wrap this conversation up, though, one of the things that really stuck out in my head was the very ending, where they're talking about the very last episode and ending it all, and how right once they said cut and they said that's a wrap, they immediately started breaking down the set to build a brand new set for a brand new show, like within hours.
Yeah.
Crazy. That's Hollywood for you.
That was crazy. It was also, it just seems weird, but it's, I mean, I don't know anything about that. It just, yeah, I remember saying, I was like, damn, that's, man, we're not even out the door yet, and you're over there like, swift kick in the rear.
That's what it seemed too. Yeah. I mean, they took one of the wild walls and everybody from the crew signed the wild wall. I think that's awesome that they still have that wild wall. And with some of the things that are said on there is even better. Like Joey's saying, look up what Joey wrote on the wild wall.
It's naughty. Yes.
We don't say bad words on here.
No. That was fun. So all in all, I was pleasantly surprised because I grew up as a kid watching so many sitcoms and shows, which I don't now. Like nowadays, I don't really watch sitcoms anymore, probably because there's not as many, but I also don't have cable. So I'm watching more like dramas and sci-fi shows and, documentaries and things. But I kind of forgot a lot about the show until I watched this reunion. Like, so it brought up a lot of memories. I'm like, wow, I completely forgot about like that moment, or like that character was on this show and did this. And yeah, so it's kind of fun to remember those moments.
Yeah, maybe you would be able to watch more sitcoms if we didn't make you watch Winter Soldier and Falcon.
Right?
Yeah, don't even get me started on those shows. Marvel.
I thought it was a sitcom.
The way we talked about it, it might as well have been.
Right?
Garbage. Anywho. So do you guys want to have any last words about the show? Since I don't think anybody's going to talk about this show for the next ever.
Yeah, what did you guys think of David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston?
Like the fact that they had a crush on each other? That part? That was interesting.
They just threw it out there.
Me. I don't know if it surprised me that much. It happens a lot on set. Like I watch a lot of behind the scenes stuff on TV shows and movies, and that happens almost all the time. Like 99% of the times, the two leads that have a crush on each other do in real life. Like that's why their chemistry works. A lot of them end up getting married. Yeah.
I really liked it. I liked that they brought it up. I liked that they discussed it and kind of we're playing tongue in cheek to it all, but they
were very candid about a lot of it too.
Well, one thing that I really, really liked about it was the fact that they didn't let it go too far to where it hurt the show. At the end of the day, the show succeeded. Who knows if the show would have succeeded if they were to get together and then and then get married and then had a bad divorce, and then all of a sudden now they can't be on the same set together.
Or they are, and then it comes out and it's forced, and we all pick it up as the viewer.
But what about Jennifer Aniston's personal life? It's like you guys don't care about that at all. What if she could have been happier?
True.
Nope. I don't care about their personal life. Make me laugh, monkey.
Right?
I think I like the fact, honestly, I didn't I have never really read a lot of behind the scenes or backstories. I think that's weird for me to say that, as big as a fan as I am of the show. So when they said that, I was like, no way. Like, I was like, eating popcorn and just leaning forward. And I was like, no way. That's so, because it's awesome. And I mean, I think that's
Tell me
kind of
more.
like, I
Yes.
know, right? I think that, I don't know if I want to be as corny as to say it just adds like a really nice innocence to their relationship for it being that time, that place. But I think that when they brought it up, it made total sense. Everything clicked because, I think almost everybody has had a crush on somebody and you just couldn't do anything about it because of XYZ, whatever, that time, that place. And for them, it's very easy to put yourself in their situation knowing that you can't do anything about it. But then also they are still winning no matter what, because the next day they go to work, you get to kiss the person, you get to be with the person that you have a crush on. Just because you don't get to go home to them after work, you get to be with them at work, and it's work. And they had, you can tell they had a mutual respect for each other. Like you said, they didn't let it go too far. And I think knowing that, it instantly clicked. It's like, well, that's probably the biggest reason why they sold it. I mean, even if you don't watch the show, you don't know hardly anything about it. I mean, it's hard to find somebody who doesn't know the names, just Ross and Rachel. You may not know the backstory, but it's got to be one of the most timeless kind of couple relationships of entertainment. I mean, I'm not saying like they're, Humphrey Bogart and whatever, but but their relationship, just kind of, it was a big driving force of the show. And to kind of hear that, I don't know, I probably said too much, but I think that it was really, really cool. It was just like the nail in the coffin.
Nice.
No, man. Hey, you could talk all you want, man. We're hitting our time marks here.
Right. No, that was a good place to end it, because that was kind of a sweet moment in the episode as well. So
absolutely,
well done.
I liked it a lot.
Well good said. Question, Trevor.
That's what I do. So, to everyone listening, we hope you enjoyed. We hope you enjoyed the Friends Reunion special. If you haven't seen it, it's available on HBO Max. And shout out to the cast of Friends and all the producers for jumping on this now while everyone's still alive, rather than leaving it up for like a behind the actors studio and having these dark secrets come out and stuff. Take it and control your own narrative and put a positive spin on things.
There you go.
Wow. There you go. That was awesome. And Steve, before we go, how about you pimp yourself out a little bit?
Well, I like Italian food. I enjoy the beach. Yeah. Wait, sorry.
Oh, okay.
You enjoy the beach, but you don't come out to San Diego enough. Come on.
I know. No, Sully and I, we still have Nerd Foo. Unfortunately, we don't get to it a whole lot. I know you guys know that he's busy and doing his thing, and he's doing great. And me, I'm rocking my current gig. It's a startup company. So I'm enjoying that. And, that's pretty much what I'm doing. Occasional Funko Pop hunting, more Legos, all about my Jeep, buying stuff for the Jeep. What turned into saving money for Funko Pops turned into like fenders and headlights and lift kits and big tires and stuff like that. But looking forward to seeing, all y'all's faces again at these cons when they come up, because that's, hopefully, I'll say that with a grain of salt, that's not going to stop. So I'll be in full Nerd Foo mode again, once all that, starts up and I get to see all y'all. That would be a lot of fun.
And if people want to get a hold of you somehow, how can they contact you?
You can still, hit us up at Nerd Foo, at the Nerd Foo on Twitter, Facebook, or if you want to chat with me, you can hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Original Scuba, all one word.
There you go. Right awesome. On. Thank you.
To everyone listening, we hope you enjoyed, and we'll talk to you next time.
All right, Brog out.
Adios, y'all.